G'day, Starlo here. I've had some questions from viewers of the channel recently about the fishing lines that I choose to use on my reels. I'm sure it won't come as too much of a surprise to most of you who are regular viewers to hear that I prefer to use braided gel-spun polyethylene lines as my main lines in about 90% of my fishing. And in recent years I've settled on two braids that I use almost exclusively. And again, you won't be surprised to hear that they're Shimano products. I mean, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Shimano man and have been for over 30 years. Look, I've used plenty of other brands as well, and there's some really good braids on the market. Most of them are pretty good. There's only a few I wouldn't use again, and I'd prefer not to name those. But generally, if you stick to the reputable brands, most of the braids out there today are pretty good. But the two that I've come down to are Power Pro and Kairiki, and I use these two different braids in slightly different applications. In my opinion, the Kairiki braid is what I call a finesse braid. It's very fine, it's very smooth, incredibly uniform. It behaves itself beautifully on a reel, and I love it for all those finesse applications. Might be flicking little lures for brim and whiting and trout and redfin, all that sort of stuff, or even bait fishing, especially in open water environments such as on the beach. I love it for my beach fishing, the Kairiki. But in tougher scenarios where there's snags and rocks and coral and reef involved, I tend to go for the Power Pro. So it's the Power Pro that I most often use when I'm chasing bass or barra or mangrove jacks in the snags, drummer off the rocks, snapper over kelp beds, and even brim in the oyster racks. So that's kind of how I've boiled it down. The Kairiki for the finesse applications, and the Power Pro, which by the way is also a Shimano product, in the tougher environments, and it's served me well for the last few years. Now, I always use braided line with a monofilament leader, and before I go any further, I should clear up a bit of confusion about the term monofilament or mono. It's amazing how many people think mono equals nylon. Well, look, nylon line is a monofilament, but so is fluorocarbon line. Monofilament just means single strand, so both nylon and fluorocarbon, or FC, they're both monofilaments, and I always attach a mono leader to my braid, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. I won't go into them all right now, but they have to do with visibility, abrasion resistance, and a bunch of other things, and also just building a little bit of stretch into that system, because we know that braid doesn't have much stretch. Having a mono leader on there gives you a little slight bit of shock absorption, especially when you're close to the fish. But anyway, I'm digressing. I wanted to talk about braids today and the fact that I love my Kairiki and my Power Pro. But there's a new player in this arena, and it's called Kairiki Plus. This stuff was launched in the second half of 2024, and I've had a chance to use it, and I'm pretty impressed. Just like the earlier Kairiki, it's what I would call a finesse braid. Super fine, supple, very uniform in diameter, and really behaves itself on a reel, but it's got a new 3-layer silicone coating and also a new method of twisting or braiding the fibres together that Shimano claim make it a lot more abrasion resistant than the earlier Kairiki. And I got to say, so far I think they're onto something. I might have found a line that's midway between the rugged toughness of Power Pro and the finesse of the original Kairiki, and I'll certainly be giving it a solid run over the coming year. I'll let you know the wash up of all that. But there's something else about this new Kairiki Plus that I really like, and that's the fact that here on the box they print the actual average breaking strain of the line. Now, this is another one of those confusing areas, because traditionally all braids have been dramatically underrated. If it says 10 pound on your spool of braid, chances are it's going to break closer to 20 pound. If it says 20 pound, it's going to be 30 or 40 pound, at least in its unknotted strength. Now, I don't know why manufacturers chose to do this, but none of them can break the mold now, and they all dramatically underrate their braids. But Shimano have decided to tell the truth here on the box and give you the average actual breaking strain of each spool of Kairiki Plus. This is very cool. Let's have a look at them. Okay, so we can see here that the so-called 6-pound Kairiki Plus actually has an average actual breaking strain of 4.8 kilos, which is about 10.5 pounds. The 8-pound has an average actual breaking strain of 6.5 kilos, which is around 14 pounds. The 10-pound actual breaking strain, 8.3 kilos, or a bit over 18 pound. The 15-pound, 9.8 kilos, or around 25 pounds. The 20-pound, actual average breaking strain, 16 kilos, or 35 pounds. And finally, the 30-pound Kairiki Plus, an actual average breaking strain of a whopping 22.5 kilos, which is as near as heck to 50 pounds. So this is really good stuff to know, because you know that that is the unknotted strength of this line. And if you can tie decent knots, things like a good double uni, an FG, a slim beauty, to connect your leader, then you're going to retain most of that breaking strain. And that's really important when it comes to your rigging decisions. So I know now, for example, that if I put 8-pound OCF fluorocarbon, which is probably a little bit underrated as well and probably breaks about 10 pound. But if I attach that to, say, this 6-pound Kairiki Plus braid, the 8-pound leader will break before the braid does. And those are things that you need to know. So I really take my hat off to Shimano for being upfront about this and putting those actual average breaking strains on the spools of Kairiki Plus braid. Now, of course, the other thing that's stated on every spool of Kairiki Plus is the line's diameter in millimetres. This is something we don't talk about enough in Australia. It's really big in Europe. When a European angler goes in to buy a fishing line, be it braid or mono, the first thing they look at is the diameter in millimetres rather than the rated breaking strain. And in a lot of ways it's a far more accurate measurement, because the manufacturers can basically put anything on as a stated breaking strain, but they're actually supposed to measure the diameter with a micrometer. Now that said, I'm a little bit leery about diameters on braided lines, because braid squashes in the jaws of a micrometer. It depends on how tight you want to make it. They should measure it by just getting the jaws in contact. Now I don't know how this is measured, but the diameters are on there, and it's worth looking at when you're comparing one line with another. And that's the case with Kairiki Plus or any other line that has the diameter listed on it. Look, it's available in two colours, a multicolour and a mantis green. I really like that mantis green for my lighter applications, but the multicolour will be a big favourite with a lot of people as well, I know. It comes in two lengths, 150 metres or 300 metres, and it's out there in the shops now. If you haven't tried it yet, I reckon you should go out and grab a couple of spools and give it a run. Like I said, I've been pretty impressed with it so far. I'll let you know more once I've put in 6 months or a year of using this stuff really hard, because that's the way you tell whether it's going to be durable or not. And you know, if I had a minor criticism of the Kairiki in the past, it is that it does wear out over time. The colour fades, it loses a little bit of its strength, and it will start to fluff up. And that's something that you tend to find with all the highly strung finesse braids. They do have a lifespan, whereas the Power Pro just seems to go on forever and ever. If this stuff is midway between the two, it's going to be a big hit with me, and I suspect it might be a big hit with you too. Anyway, I hope you've got something out of this and that you've enjoyed watching it, and that you'll go and give the Kairiki Plus a run. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up down below, and if you don't already subscribe to the channel, think about doing so. It only takes one click, and it's a big help to me. Also, did you know that you can shout me a beer or buy me a coffee to help me produce more content like this? The link's down below. For the price of a cup of coffee or a beer, you can help put some more fuel in my boat or car tank and get out there to make more content like this. Anyway, until next time, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines or tight braid. Catch ya.